Increase your financial IQ. Getting Richer by Getting Smarter by best-selling author Robert T. Kiyosaki. Chapter 4. Financial IQ number 2, Protecting Your Money. Protecting your money from financial predators is important. As most of us know, the world is filled with people and organizations waiting for the opportunity to help themselves to your money. Many of these people and organizations are very smart and powerful. If they are smarter than you or have more power than you, they will get your money. This is why financial IQ number 2 is so important. How do you measure financial IQ number 2? Financial IQ number 1 is generally measured in gross dollars. Financial IQ number 2 is measured in percentages. Here's what I mean. The following are 3 examples of 3 different percentages. 1, in America, a person who earns $100,000 a year from wages may pay as much as 50% in combined taxes such as federal, state, and FICA. This person's net after-tax income is $50,000. 2, another person earns $100,000 income from their investments and pays 15% in taxes. This person's net after-tax income is $85,000. 3, a third person earns $100,000 income and pays 0% in taxes. This person's net after-tax income is $100,000. In the examples above, the person who pays the least percentage in taxes has the highest financial IQ number 2, protecting your money, because less money is lost to financial predators. In later chapters, I will go into how to earn a lot of money and pay nothing in taxes legally. But for now, keep this simple idea in mind. Financial IQ number 2 measures the percentage of income a person keeps against the percentage of income financial predators take. Bunnies, Birds, and Bugs, Rich Dad's lessons to his son and me on the importance of protecting money from financial predators started at a very early age, before we had any money. Because we were young, Rich Dad used a very simple example of farmers to make his point. He said a farmer needs to protect his crops from bunnies, birds, and bugs. Bunnies, birds, and bugs are thieves to a farmer. Using the idea that bunnies were thieves served as a powerful lesson to me as a young boy. Bunnies were cute and cuddly. They were harmless. The same was true of birds. In fact, I had a pet parakeet at home, and to label a bird a thief was a harsh concept. Bugs, however, I understood. I knew how they could be labeled thieves. I had a garden at home, and I lost many of my vegetables to bugs standing behind us. Rich Dad was not trying to frighten us. He simply wanted his son and me to be aware of the real world. The reason he used cute creatures such bunnies and birds was to make the point that some of the biggest thieves of our personal wealth are not just bandits, criminals, or outlaws. He used bunnies and birds because he wanted us to remember that some of the greatest financial predators are people and organizations that we love, trust, or respect. People or organizations we think are on our side and are standing behind us. Rich Dad said, the reason so many people stand behind us is because it is easier to get into our pockets from that position. One of the reasons so many people have financial problems is because they have too many hands in their pockets. Continuing on with his B theme of bunnies, birds, and bugs for labeling farmers' predators, Rich Dad's list of real-world financial predators included bureaucrats, bankers, brokers, businesses, brides, beaux, brothers-in-law, and barristers. The first B, bureaucrats. As we all know, taxes are our single largest expense. The job of the tax department is to get your money and turn it over to a government bureaucrat who spends it. Unfortunately, the problem with most politicians and bureaucrats is that they are very good at spending money. Most public servants do not know how to make money, which may be why they choose to become bureaucrats. If they could make money, they would probably be business people instead of bureaucrats. Since they do not know how to make money but love to spend it, bureaucrats spend a lot of time figuring out more and creative ways to take our money via taxes. For example, American bureaucrats created a clever tax program known as the AMT, which stands for Alternative Minimum Tax. The AMT was created in 1970. It is an additional tax on high-income workers earning approximately $60,000 or more a year. It's a clever way to tax a person twice on the same income. The problem is $60,000 was a lot of money in 1970. Today, $60,000 is hardly a high income. Many of the rich do not pay this tax. Only high-income workers do. As you know, we already pay taxes on our income investments, homes, cars, gasoline, travel, clothing, meals, alcohol, cigarettes, businesses, education, permits, licenses, death, and on and on. We pay taxes upon taxes. We pay taxes on taxes we do not even know about. These taxes are sold to us as being good for society, and some are. Society's problems, however, only get bigger because bureaucrats do not know how to solve problems and consequently do not know how to make money. They only know how to throw money at problems. When more money does not solve a problem, they create new taxes with clever names. Since the problems only get bigger, the percentage we pay in taxes only goes up. Just as compounding interest makes us richer, compounding taxes makes us poorer. This is one reason why financial IQ number 2 is so important. You cannot become rich if all the money you make is taken from you by financial predators. Taxes are important. Before going on, I need to say that I am not against the government or paying taxes. Rich Dad said taxes are an expense for living in a civilized society. He pointed out to his son and me that taxes pay for schools and teachers, fire and police protection, court systems, the military, roads, airports, food safety, and the general operation of the business of government. Rich Dad's frustration with taxes was that bureaucrats very rarely solved the problems they faced, which meant taxes had to keep going up. Instead of solving the problem, a bureaucrat often calls for a committee to study the problem, which means nothing will be. Realizing that we will only pay more in taxes, Rich Dad's philosophy was, a bureaucrat's job is to get their hands deeper in your pockets legally, and your job is to have them take as little as possible legally. Unfortunately, it is often the people who earn the least who pay the highest percentage in taxes. At a recent event, Warren Buffett had this to say about the U.S. tax system. The 400 of us here pay a lower part of our income in taxes than our receptionists do, or our cleaning ladies for that matter. If you're in the luckiest 1% of humanity, you owe it to the rest of humanity to think about the other 99%. Which political party is better? Just so you know, I am not Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, socialist or capitalist. When asked, I simply reply that I'm all of the above. For example, as a capitalist, I want to make a lot of money and pay as little in taxes as possible. As a socialist, I make tax-deductible donations to charities and in worthy causes. And I want my taxes to provide for a better society and care for those who truly cannot care for themselves. Many people believe that Republicans are better than Democrats when it comes to money. The facts do not support their belief. Republicans say Democrats tax and spend. Republicans, on the other hand, borrow and spend. The net result, regardless of party, is increasing long-term national debt, a debt that will be passed on to future generations in the form of higher taxes. This is a sign of low financial IQ. It was Democratic presidents Roosevelt and Johnson who are credited with creating Social Security and Medicare, two of the most expensive and potentially disastrous programs in world history. America was the world's biggest creditor nation under Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower. We were a rich nation. When Republican Richard Nixon became president, however, the rules of money changed, and the wealth of the U.S. began to change. As president, Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971. This converted the dollar from money to a currency. Nixon allowed the U.S. government to print as much money as necessary to solve our money problems. This is the same as a person writing checks without having any money in the bank. If we did what the government does today, we would be in jail. One of the reasons for the growing gap between the rich and drought, everyone else, is that most people are still working by the old rules of money, the old capitalism. After 1971, the new rules of money took over. The rich became richer, and the poor and middle class worked harder trying to keep from falling between the cracks. In 1980, Republican President Reagan gave us supply-side economics, aka voodoo economics. The new economic theories promoted by the great communicator Reagan, an actor not an economist, were the illusion that we could cut taxes and continue to pay the government's bills by borrowing money. This is the same as taking a cut in pay and using credit cards to pay bills. When Thomas Gale Moore, then a member of President Reagan's Council of Economic Advisors, noticed that the United States was crossing the creditor-debtor threshold in the mid-1980s, he said not to worry. We can pay off anybody by running a press. Call me crazy, but usually that's called counterfeiting. Because of the 1971 change in our money and Reagan's supply-side economics, the national debt of the U.S. exploded. By the end of Reagan's reign, the federal debt was $2.6 trillion. President Reagan's vice president, the first George Bush, realizing the national debt was exploding due to the loss of revenue from Reagan's tax cuts, ran for president promising, read my lips, no new taxes. After he was elected, he raised taxes and was not reelected. Then President Clinton, a Democrat, entered office after having a little trouble with his zipper. He left office claiming to have balanced the budget and not increased the national debt. Of course, just as he lied about his sex life, he lied about balancing the budget. He balanced the budget by counting tax dollars for Social Security and Medicare as income. Instead of the money going into the Social Security Trust Fund, he spent it. That would be like him taking money from his daughter's college fund to buy a new dress for Monica. Clinton, however, did speak one truth during his term of office. He admitted that there was no such thing as a Social Security Trust Fund. During his presidency, Medicare began to operate in the red, meaning more money was going out than coming in. Soon, Social Security will be in the same predicament, as 78 million baby boomers begin to retire in 2008. Enter the second President Bush. Uniting the world after 9/11, he then used his popularity to wage war against Iraq on unsubstantiated claims. Today, he is one of the most unpopular presidents in history. Not only was the war a disaster, but in order to prevent a disaster in the economy, the Federal Reserve Bank cut interest rates and flooded the world with funny money under his watch. After just 5 years in office, President Bush has borrowed more money than all other U.S. presidents in history combined. The current subprime crisis is the fruit of his economic policies. All of this is to say it doesn't matter which party is elected into office. If it's Democrats, they will probably tax and spend. If it's Republicans, they will probably borrow and spend. The net result is the same: greater debt, bigger financial problems, and higher taxes, all funded by taking as much of your money as possible. Are you a capitalist or a socialist? There is a joke I heard years ago explaining the difference between a socialist and a capitalist. One day, a socialist knocked on a farmer's door and asked him to join the local socialist party. Not knowing what a socialist was, the farmer asked for an example of socialist behavior. The socialist said, if you have a cow, then everyone in the village can have some of the milk from your cow. It's called sharing the wealth. That sounds good, said the farmer. And if you have a sheep, the socialist said, then everyone shares in the wool. Very nice, said the farmer. This socialism sounds good. That's great, said the socialist, believing that he had a convert to socialism. And if you have a chicken, then everyone shares in the eggs. What? The farmer screamed angrily. That's terrible. Get out of here and take your socialist ideas with you. But, stammered the socialist, I don't understand. You were happy with the idea of sharing milk and wool. Why do you object to sharing eggs? Because I don't have a cow or a sheep, snarled the farmer, but I do have a chicken. And this is why financial IQ number 2 is so important. Everyone agrees that we need to share the wealth as long as it is your wealth, not their wealth. Choose your income carefully. From previous chapters, you already know that there are 3 different types of income: earned, portfolio, and passive. Knowing the differences is important, especially when it comes to protecting your money from bureaucrats. Working for earned income does not allow for much protection from predatory taxes. In America, even low-income wage earners pay a high percentage in taxes. Workers approximately pay a 15% tax for Social Security, and they also pay federal, state, and local taxes. Now, I can hear some people saying that Social Security is not a 15% tax. They think it is more like 7.4%, and that your employer pays the other 7.4%. That may be true, but my way of looking at the combined 15% is that it is my money. If my employer did not pay it to the government, my employer should pay it to me. The same is true with employees who think their employer matches their 401k retirement money. That money paid by the employer to an investment banker for safekeeping is still your money. Personally, I do not want the government managing my future financial security. The government does a horrible job. I'd rather take care of my own money. The government does not have much financial intelligence. It spends the money it collects. The powers that be know that most people are not financially educated, so why not make themselves and their friends rich with your money? The second be bankers. Banks were created to protect your money from bandits. But what if you found out your banker were also a bandit? A banker does not have to put his hands in your pocket. You take money out of your pocket with your own hands and turn it over to the banker. But what if you found out that the very people you entrusted with your money were siphoning off more money than you knew about, and doing it legally? While he was New York Attorney General, New York Governor Eliot Spitzer investigated a number of investment banking firms and large mutual fund companies, finding them guilty of several illegal practices. The very people the public entrusted with its money were skimming a little more money than they should have been. The guilty companies were fined a trifling amount compared to the dollar amounts they took. While the paltry size of the fines is disturbing, what is even more disturbing is that these bankers are still in business today. The problem is that Eliot Spitzer's investigation was limited to investment banking firms in New York City. The problem of bankers taking money from innocent customers is a worldwide one. As more businesses stop caring for workers for life, more workers are forced to save for their own retirement. Workers do not have the money to hire professional financial services like businesses do. This is causing the pool of financially naive money to grow like a hot air balloon, making bankers and people who sell financial services to workers grow richer and richer. Today, workers' retirement funds are fueling a global economic boom. Retirement funds are an ocean of money, unprecedented in world history, guarded by bankers, not you. The investigation begins. In 2007, the Congress of the United States opened an investigation into the current 401k pension plans and mutual funds facilitated by the bankers we trust with our money. The following is an excerpt from an article that appeared in the March 14, 2007 edition of the Wall Street Journal. Eleanor Lies, what is your 401 costing you? 401k plans aren't required to make clear how much participants are being charged in fees. And there can be a lot of them, including charges to cover independent audits, tracking and maintaining accounts, advisory services, as well as helplines, and of course the basic expense of managing funds in a plan. The growing tension over 401k's spurred federal lawmakers last week to probe whether spotty disclosure of fees make it difficult for employees to know if they are getting a good deal. The problem with these fees is that even your employer can't understand them. In fact, your employer doesn't even know about some of them because they are hidden. So how can you be expected to know or understand the fees? The article goes on to say, now some employers are hiring outside consultants just to help them understand the fees. One area of concern is the high fees, complexity, and potential conflicts of interest associated with so-called revenue sharing agreements. These often involve payments by a mutual fund company to a 401k plan provider to compensate the provider for services such as account maintenance. These costs are often built into the expenses of the funds offered in the plans and help to increase the cost to plan participants. In reading the excerpt above, it becomes apparent how easy it is for retirement fund providers, that is, bankers, to grow rich off your money. As I mentioned earlier, banks were created to protect your money. Now they work to take it from you. The tragedy of the situation is that we make it so easy for them. We don't even have to walk into the bank anymore. In fact, they might even charge you for that. Instead, money is taken directly from paychecks before it even reaches our hands. Bankers don't have to take it from our pockets, because it never even goes into our pockets. Clipping coins. During the Roman Empire, many emperors played games with their coins. Some clipped the coins, shaving a little gold and silver from the edges. This is why coins today have grooves on the edge. Grooves were to protect coins from clippers. When they could no longer clip coins, the emperors had their treasuries begin mixing the gold and silver with cheaper base metals. The U.S. government did the same thing with its coins in the 1960s. Suddenly, silver coins disappeared and fake coins took their place. Then in 1971, the U.S. dollar became funny money because it was taken completely off the gold standard. In many ways, banks are the biggest financial predators of all. every day. They rob savers of their wealth by printing more and more funny money. For example, the bankers' rules allow them to take in your savings and pay you a small percentage interest. Then for every dollar you save, the bank is allowed to lend out at least $20 more and charge a higher interest on that money. For example, you deposit $1 and the bank pays you 5% interest for that dollar over a year. Immediately, the bank is allowed to lend out $20 and charge you 20% interest to use your credit card. The bank pays you 5% for $1 and makes 20% on $20. That's how bankers get rich. If you and I did this, we would go to jail. It's known as usury. It also causes inflation. Because our banks are playing games with money, the gap between rich and poor becomes larger. Today, savers are losers and bankers are winners. In the new rules of money, we need to know how to borrow currency to acquire assets since we no longer save money. In other words, smart borrowers are the winners in the new capitalism, not those who save money in a bank savings account. The third be brokers. Broker is another word for salesperson. In the world of money, there are brokers for stocks, bonds, real estate, mortgages, insurance, businesses, etc. One of the problems today is that most people are getting their financial advice from salespeople, not rich people. If you meet a rich broker, you need to ask if the broker got rich from his or her sales ability or financial ability. Warren Buffett once observed, Wall Street is the place people drive to in their Rolls Royce to take advice from people who ride the subway. Rich Dad said, the reason they are called brokers is because they are broker than you are. Good brokers, poor brokers. One of the problems of not having much money is that good brokers, brokers who know what they are doing, often do not have time for you. They are busy working with their higher net worth clients. When Kim and I had very little money, one of our biggest challenges was finding a broker who was willing to educate us. Since we didn't have much money, most brokers didn't have much time. We also met many brokers who only wanted to sell to us, not teach us, yet we kept looking. What we were looking for was a young stockbroker who was just building a client base, one who was smart, a student of their profession, and also an investor. Almost by accident, through a friend of a friend, we met Tom. Initially, we gave Tom $25,000. 15 years later, our stock portfolio is in the millions of dollars and growing. After we were married in 1986, Kim and I began investing in real estate. We decided to start with very little money. We met a lot of bad real estate brokers who sold real estate but did not invest in real estate. If they did invest, it was in mutual funds. Finally, we met John. Starting with $5,000, he helped us grow our real estate portfolio to approximately $250,000. While that may not sound like a lot of growth, it was accomplished in just 3 years during a very bad real estate market in Portland, Oregon. Today, our real estate holdings are in the tens of millions and growing. Lessons learned. As you know, there are good brokers and bad brokers. Simply put, good brokers make you richer, and bad brokers make excuses. The following is an abbreviated list of things that helped us find and keep good brokers. 1, both Kim and I took classes on investing in stocks and real estate. Having more knowledge allowed us to tell an educated broker from a salesperson. 2, we looked for brokers who were also students of their profession. Both Tom and John invested a lot of time beyond their minimum professional education requirements in their fields. Tom often invites me to look at businesses he is researching. John is a real estate broker who actually invests in real estate. Today, he is a respected teacher on the subject of real estate investing. 3, we want to know if they invest in what they sell. After all, why should you invest in what they're selling if the broker doesn't have the confidence to invest in the same stocks? 4, we wanted a relationship, not a transaction. Many brokers only want to sell. Both Tom and John had time to have dinner with us even when we had very little money. Both are friends. The key to success. The key to success is education. Kim, John, Tom, and I are students of investing. We are interested in the same subject. We all want to learn more about the subject. We invest in our subject. Tom does not know much about real estate, so we do not talk about real estate with him. John has no interest in the stock market, so we do not talk about stocks with him. One of the reasons our wealth grew was that our knowledge grew. Often I would call John and ask him questions like, Can you explain to me the difference between cap rates and internal rates of return? He would take the time to educate me rather than just sell to me. With Tom, I would call and ask him questions such as, can you explain to me the difference between long bonds and short bonds? Tom was more than happy to play teacher. One of the reasons the Rich Dad Company has multi-day seminars on stocks and real estate is because financial education is important. The teachers who teach our courses are investors who practice what they teach. The Rich Dad Company values financial education because it was the glue for Kim and me to have a strong relationship with our brokers, Tom and John. It was the personal commitment to long-term financial education that allowed all four of us to grow very rich together. Today, I have stock and real estate brokers calling constantly. All of them claim to have a hot deal that will make me rich. In most cases, all they are interested in is a commission so they can put food on their table. Not my table. Good brokers want to put food on both tables. Again, financial IQ number 2 is measured in percentages. Brokers often earn their income in percentages. For example, if I buy a $1 million property, brokers may earn 6% of the sale, or $60,000. If that property makes me 10% cash on cash return every year, then the broker's fee has been well earned, since I only pay that commission once. Conversely, if I buy and sell, flip a property, or day trade a stock, I pay a commission going in and coming out. This is often called a round trip or slippage. In real estate, a round trip for a flipper may eat 12% of the profits as well as trigger higher taxes. That is not financially intelligent. Traders as investors. People who go in and out are traders, not investors. Not only do traders pay higher commissions to brokers, the trader pays a higher percentage in taxes, aka short-term capital gains, for buying and selling. This means the tax department bureaucrats do not consider people who buy and sell for capital gains investors. They consider them professional traders and may even add a self-employment tax onto their earnings. Brokers and bureaucrats win, and traders lose in these types of transactions. Financially intelligent investors know how to minimize predatory transaction fees and taxes by investing wisely and utilizing good brokers. Churning. Years ago, a friend's mother had her account churned by her friendly stockbroker. Churning is when the broker is busy buying and selling stocks for the client. In the end, the broker gets the client's money via commissions, and the client's portfolio is drained. So, before you turn your money over to a broker, choose your broker carefully. At a minimum, ask the broker if you can call some of their clients and talk to them. Remember, good brokers like Tom and John can make you rich, and bad brokers can make you poor. The fourth B, businesses. All businesses have something to sell. If they do not sell, they are out of business. I often ask, is this business's product or service making me richer or poorer? In many cases, the product or service does not make you richer. It only makes the business richer. Many businesses do their best to make you poorer. For example, many big department stores have their own credit cards. The worst credit cards a person can own. The reason they want you to carry their credit card is because their company gets a kickback from the bank. The business that issues the card is a broker for the bank. Notice that the pattern broker and banker reappears again, using credit cards to buy poor products. One of the reasons so many struggle financially is they buy products that make them poorer and then make themselves even poorer by paying for that product for years with high-interest credit cards. For example, if I buy a pair of shoes with a credit card and take years to pay off the credit card bill, I remain poorer for years to come by continuing to pay for a product that made me poorer, not richer. Poor people buy products that keep them poor and take years to pay for those products while incurring high interest charges. If you want to be rich, become a customer of businesses that are dedicated to making you richer. For example, I am a long-term customer of a number of investment newsletters and financial magazines. I am also a customer of businesses that sell educational products and seminars. In other words, I am a good customer to some of my competitors. I like spending money on products or services that make me richer. The fifth B, brides and beaux. We all know that some people marry for money. Both men and women marry for money rather than love. Like it or not, money plays an important role in any marriage. There is a line from the movie The Great Gatsby that goes, "Rich girls do not marry poor boys." The line may be a good line in the movie, but the reality is there are poor girls and boys who do marry rich people for their money. Love predators. Rich Dad called people who marry for money love predators. The more money you have, the more they love you. In his much publicized pending divorce, Paul McCartney may have to give up 50% of his estimated $1 billion estate. That is a lot of money. This shows that McCartney has earned a lot of money as a musical genius, but his lack of financial IQ, number 2, is costing him a lot of money that a little premarital planning might have saved him. My friend Donald, Trump says, get a prenuptial agreement before you get married. A prenuptial agreement is a sign of higher financial IQ. Number 2, losing 50% of a life's fortune for a few years of marriage is a sign of lower financial IQ. Number 2, Rich Dad used to say, when you combine love and money, financial insanity, not financial intelligence, often reigns. When Kim and I got married, neither of us had any money, so I know we did not marry for money. Even though we didn't have money, we had an exit strategy planned in case things did not go as we wanted. That's why Kim has her own legal corporations, and so do I. She has her investments, and so do I. If we should split, we don't have to split our assets. They're already split. I'm glad to say that we have been happily married since 1986, and the marriage gets better and better and richer every year. Exit before you enter. It's insane to think that life is about living happily ever after. Happily ever after is true only in fairy tales. Things change. That is why exit strategies are important for anything of worth. I know it may be uncomfortable to ask for a prenuptial agreement before you marry the man or woman of your dreams, but it's the financially intelligent thing to do, especially in this day and age of a 50% divorce rate. When forming a new business with a new business partner, I know it may be difficult to think about a buy-sell agreement or a business dissolution agreement when you are just starting out. But it is financially intelligent to think of your exit before you enter into the agreement. The next exit strategy is one many people do not like to think about, but it is financially intelligent to think about it before you make the final exit. The 6th B, brothers-in-law. Death is the final exit. It is another time when predators appear, or I should say, vultures. If you are rich, not having a financial IQ can be expensive for your loved ones. Family, friends, and the government show up for your funeral. If you are rich, your brother-in-law's children's grandchildren, children you've never met, suddenly become family and come to cry at your funeral. If you have a high financial IQ, the percentage of your money these grieving relatives receive will be controlled by you, even after you have moved on. Those with a high financial IQ have wills, trusts, and other legal means of protecting their wealth and final wishes from death predators. Just look at Leona Helmsley. She was able to leave $12 million to her dog while stiffing her grandchildren. While that's not what I would suggest, it is proof positive that a high financial IQ will allow you to determine where your money goes, even from the grave. Before you pass on, plan your exit with an estate planning specialist. If you are rich or plan on being rich, planning your final exit is the financially intelligent thing to do. Do it before you die. Only leave the dog out of it. The 7th B, barristers. You may remember the person who sued McDonald's claiming the coffee was too hot. That is an example of a financial predator using the court system to get your money. Millions of people are waiting for any excuse to use a lawsuit to get rich. This is why the 7th B is for barristers or lawyers. There are lawyers whose sole purpose in life is to take you to court and take your money. Knowing these predators are lurking, there are 3 things a financially intelligent person must do. 1, keep nothing of value in your name. It was my poor dad who proudly said, "My house is in my name." Financially smart people would not have their houses in their names. 2, buy personal liability insurance immediately. Remember, you cannot buy insurance when you need it. You must buy it before you need it. 3, hold assets of value in legal entities. In the U.S., the good legal entities are C corporations, S corporations, limited liability corporations, LCs, and limited liability partnerships, LLPs. There are also bad legal entities. These are sole proprietorships and general partnerships. Ironically, most small business owners are in bad entities. The rules have changed. Today, I continue to hear people say, work hard, save money, get out of debt, invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of mutual funds. This is old advice, and it's bad advice from the financially ignorant. It's playing the game of money by the old rules. In America today, workers who work hard to earn more money just pay more, and more in taxes. They save money and lose because the dollar is no longer money, but rather a currency that is constantly declining in value. Instead of learning to use debt as leverage to become richer, they work hard to get out of debt. Millions of American workers put money away in a 401k retirement plan filled with mutual funds. Due to a lack of financial education in school, workers' wallets are picked clean by schools of financial piranhas. A look at history. When you look back at history, it is easy to see the rules of money changing in the U.S. and the world. You already know why saving money is for the financially naive. This change took place in 1971. In 1943, the U.S. government, desperate for money to fight World War II, passed a law that allowed the government to take money out of workers' paychecks before the worker got paid. In other words, the government got paid before the worker got paid. Today in America, if you have a job, you have no protection against taxes. You do not need a CPA because a CPA can do little to protect your money. But if you own a business or are an investor, there are many loopholes in the government net you can swim through. I will go into some of those loopholes in a later chapter. As you know, in 1974, workers needed to become investors, saving for their retirement. This gave rise to the 401k. The problem with the 401k is that the government plugged this loophole for workers too. Let me explain. When a person works for money, his or her income is taxed as earned income, the most highly taxed income. When a worker withdraws money from his or her 401k plan, that income comes out as, you guessed it, earned income. Guess what interest from savings is taxed at? Once again, earned income. This means a person who works hard, saves money, gets out of debt, and saves for retirement in a 401k plan is working for the most highly taxed income, earned income. This is not financially intelligent. People following these rules are having their pockets picked clean by predators standing behind them and demonstrate a low financial intelligence because they give away a large percentage of their income. A financially intelligent person does not want a big paycheck. A financially educated person would rather be paid royalties or dividends because taxes are lower on these types of income. A knowledgeable investor at least knows enough to invest for portfolio or passive income. It is important to note that tax laws are different for different people. Make sure to seek the advice of qualified tax attorneys and tax accountants before making financial decisions. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States was formed. This date is possibly the most important date in U.S. history, when the rules of global money really began to change. This is the date people who work for a paycheck should remember as the beginning of the attack on their personal wealth. First of all, the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States is not a government entity. That's a myth. Neither is it a U.S. entity. It is a bank owned by some of the richest people in the world. When the Federal Reserve Bank was formed, the richest people in the world took control of the monetary system of the richest country in the world and then changed the rules of money. Today, I hear Americans demanding that the government protect American jobs and American interests. Occasionally, I hear people say, buy American or support American businesses. Well, it's too late for that. Those are feeble cries from a desperate people. In 1913, the richest people in the world took control of the world's money supply by taking control of the world's richest economy, the U.S. economy. They changed the rules and did not tell anyone. Today, the U.S. is technically a bankrupt economy, a treasury stuffed full with its own IOUs known as bonds or T-bills, bills that the children of future generations will have to pay. This stealing of wealth goes on as billions of people go to work in the businesses of the rich, save money in the banks of the rich, and invest in the assets of the rich, i.e. stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, via the investment bankers to the rich. The system is intentionally designed to take and control as much of your money as possible. legally. Years ago, in the early 1980s, I read a great book entitled Grunch of Giants. The word grunch is an acronym for Gross Universal Cash Heist. The book was written by Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller, considered one of the greatest geniuses of our time. I had the good fortune to personally study with Dr. Fuller 3 times just before he died in 1983. He has had a tremendous impact upon my life, as he has on many other people who have read his works or studied with him. Harvard University considers him one of their most significant alumni, and the American Institute of Architects recognizes him as one of the greatest designers of our time. If you can find Dr. Fuller's book, Grunch of Giants, I believe it will make a little clearer how the game of money was stolen from the people and shielded from discovery by our educational system. I believe you will find the book disturbing, especially when you look at what is going on with oil, war, banks, the economy, and education today. In the book, Dr. Fuller states that the government puts their hands in your pockets via taxation and turns that money over to their friends who control multinational corporations. In other words, our elected officials, congressmen, and senators do not represent the people. They represent big business. Surprise! In 2003, President George W. Bush and the Republicans in Congress literally forced through the prescription drug benefit bill. This bill is one of the most expensive bills put through Congress in the last 20 years. The cost to the American taxpayer is well over $500 billion. Soon after the bill was passed, a number of congressmen and staff were hired by the drug companies, some at multi-million-dollar salaries. This is an example of grunch in action. Other books you may want to read on this subject are The Dollar Crisis by Richard Duncan, The Battle for the Soul of Capitalism by John Bogle, Empire of Debt by Bill Bonner and Addison Wiggin. I believe the value of looking at these 4 books is that each author comes from a different discipline, a different point of view. It is not a single group of lunatic fringe discontents criticizing the system. For example, Dr. Fuller was a futurist. Richard Duncan is an international banker. John Bogle is the founder of the Vanguard Group. Bill Bonner and Addison Wiggin are international investment advisors. 4 different books from 4 different disciplines, all basically saying the same thing. People are playing games with money and stealing it legally. A new set of rules. Personally, I'm not trying to change the system. My personal philosophy is that it is easier to change myself than to change the system. In other words, I'm not a person who battles the winds that drive windmills. Hence, I'm not politically inclined. I don't believe politics or politicians are effective against those who run the world of money. It seems that most politicians, in order to be elected, need to be pawns of the very people who control the world's money. Most financial advisors are employees of these world bankers. I simply want to know the rules and play by the rules. This does not mean I believe the rules are fair or equitable. They aren't. The rules of money are what they are, and they change regularly. Besides, this new world of money, even though unfair, has done a lot of good. It has brought tremendous wealth and new products to the world, raising the standards of living everywhere. Quality of life for billions of people is improving. Money has done a lot of good. Unfortunately, these changes have come at great expense to many countries, our environment, and many people. Many have become very rich taking advantage of the financially naive. Many have become rich by taking the wealth of others. This is why financial IQ number 2, protecting your money, is a very important financial intelligence. Ignorance is bliss, and that's what the financial predators are banking on, your ignorance, making them blissfully rich. If you like this video, please hit the like button, click the notification for more videos, and don't forget to subscribe.